Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining tonight's telephone town hall with Congressman Tom Emmer. I am Sally, and I will be moderating tonight's town hall. Before I turn it over to Congressman Emmer, I have a few housekeeping items. First, at any point during the town hall, you may press *3 on your phone's keypad to enter the queue to ask a question. Again, press *3 at any point to get into the queue to ask your question. You will be connected to a staff member who will take your name, where you're from, and your question, and you will be placed in line. During the town hall, I will call out your name and city, and at that point, you will be live on the line and can ask your question directly to Congressman Emmer. Again, press *3 to get into the queue to ask your question. The question and answer portion of the town hall is for constituents of Minnesota's 6th Congressional District only. If you are a member of the media, you are free to listen, but may not ask a question. With that, I will turn it over to Congressman Emmer for some opening remarks. And remember, if you have a question, press *3. Congressman Emmer, take it away.
Thank you, Sally, and thanks for everybody joining us tonight. Good evening to all of you. This is Congressman Tom Emmer. Thank you again for joining our live interactive town hall. As Sally said, if you want to ask a question, please press *3 on your keypad to be connected to a staffer. Again, press *3 on your phone to ask a question. We are hosting this town hall to speak directly with you, our constituents. This evening, we will provide an update on what we are working on in Washington, D.C. and answer as many of your questions as possible. Already this year, we've hit the ground running. With unified control of Congress and President Trump in the White House, Republicans have delivered countless wins for the American people. We've rolled back the failed energy policies of the previous administration, and it's working. Under President Biden, Minnesotans experienced our highest average gas prices in history, a whopping $4.75 per gallon. Today, the average price of gas in our state is around $3, and it continues to drop. We're also bringing down everyday prices for Minnesota families. Over the last month, wholesale egg prices have nearly been cut in half. At our borders, apprehensions of illegal immigrants are at their lowest numbers in more than a decade. President Trump's border security initiatives have been so effective that migrants are choosing to return to their home countries while en route to the United States after realizing they won't make it into the United States. We're removing dangerous criminals from our communities. In Minnesota, an illegal immigrant from South Sudan with a previous conviction for homicide and an illegal immigrant from Mexico with a previous conviction for sexual misconduct were both arrested by Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers. If you're just joining us, again, this is Congressman Tom Emmer, and we're hosting a live telephone town hall. Please press *3 on your keypad to ask me a question. Thanks to the America First agenda, companies that had previously shunned the idea of investing in the United States are running back. Investors are pouring trillions into our economy, which means more jobs, increased wages, and reduced costs. One thing is clear. America is open for business again. Across the federal government, we've rolled back the Biden administration's burdensome regulations that limited consumer choice, crippled small businesses, and caused prices to skyrocket. And on the world stage, America is respected again. President Trump is working hard to bring an end to the conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East and has prioritized peace and strength around the world. We're bringing back accountability in the federal government by rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. Already, less than 100 days, in fact, it's only 73 today, into President Trump's second term, the Department of Government Efficiency has identified more than $130 billion in savings. And despite the mainstream media's narrative, a recent poll found that nearly 80% of Americans support our efforts to eliminate waste and fraud. As we craft our government funding initiatives, rest assured that we will continue to seek out and slash waste, fraud, and abuse across the federal government. Remember, again, if you'd like to ask a question during this live town hall event, please press *3 on your keypad at any time. Above all, Republicans in Washington are bringing back common sense to American life. For years, we've been the leading voice against any Federal Reserve-issued central bank digital currency and insidious technology that would be weaponized by the federal government to monitor Americans' purchases and suppress politically unpopular activity. We are proud to report that our anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act is being considered by the House Financial Services Committee right now. When it passes the committee, it can move to the House floor to be voted on and be one step closer to being signed into law. Minnesotans do not want the government snooping around in their finances, and we are going to ensure that it doesn't happen. Finally, I'll end with a quick overview of our casework services. As we've said for years, we are in the customer service business. Last year, our casework staff hosted more than 60 mobile office hour events throughout the 6th District. Our staff spends a day in towns like Waconia, Cokato, Foley, and Blaine to be close to constituents who may have issues with the IRS or the VA. In the 118th Congress, our staff assisted more than 1,300 constituents with federal casework concerns and secured more than $14 million in casework-related funds for Minnesotans. That's tax returns, Social Security claims, and more. That's your tax dollars back in your pocket. As we continue, rest assured that we are committed to delivering on our promises to the American people. We will pass legislation that empowers Minnesota families, strengthens our communities, supports our veterans and armed service members, reins in wasteful government spending, grows our small businesses, and slashes inflation and much more. As we begin this evening, remember that this Teletown Hall is an interactive forum, and we would love to hear from you. If you have a question, please press *3 on your phone keypad at any time. You will be placed in line to speak with a member of our team who will take your name and question before you go live. We will do our best to answer as many questions from our constituents as possible. If we don't get yours tonight, please leave us a voicemail after the event is over. We'll be sure to get you a response. Again, if you have a question for them, please press *3 on your phone keypad. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing your questions.
Thanks so much, Congressman Emmer. With that, we'll kick it off with our first question from Larry from Albertville. Larry, you're live on the line.
Hello, Congressman Emmer. I tried to contact Social Security several times this week, and after a long queue, I got a recording that said there's a 120-minute hold time. How is a person supposed to solve a problem if you can't get through to Social Security? I understand they're planning on making significant cuts and closing offices. It doesn't sound like a good thing for society. What are your thoughts?
Thanks, Larry. First off, my thoughts are the people that are running our government right now, the bureaucrats that are employed, we got a lot of good people. But we also have people who are more interested in protecting their little fiefdoms than they are in actually delivering for the American people. Whether it's the IRS or Social Security, or when you're calling to get answers on VA questions, a 120-minute wait is not only unreasonable, it's laughable. And when somebody tells you that it's going to take you more than an hour to get a live person on the line, they're just trying to make it painful. And we need to investigate that immediately, and we need to make sure that's over. This is a problem we had in Minnesota when we had to deal with the Minnesota budget before they overspent on everything, Larry. You'd call the Hennepin County Government Center, and they'd tell you that due to budget cuts, we aren't answering this phone on Wednesdays. That stuff is simply the government being out of control. And what's happening here in Washington, D.C. right now is this place is being shocked back to life. The waste, fraud, and abuse is being cut out. All these federal employees who aren't willing to do their job on a daily basis are being let go. And we're going to make sure that this government works for you, Larry, not for itself. So those are my thoughts. I think you have that problem. You should call our Otsego office at 763-241-6848, and we can certainly help you with that. Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, Congressman Emmer and Larry. We will go to our next question. Reminder, if you have a question for the Congressman, please press *3. And if you would like to sign up for his e-newsletter that's sent directly to your email, press 1 on your phone and we'll sign you up. Our next question is from Alyssa. Alyssa, you're live on the line.
Where's Alyssa from?
Hi, Congressman Emmer from Delano.
Awesome. Great to hear from you.
I was out in D.C. in December, and you had taken time to meet with me, which I really much appreciate that you were busy and you took time to meet with me that day. But I'm calling about those PBM reform, which is what I was out in D.C. to talk to you about in December. Rep. Miller Meeks has reintroduced the Drug Act, H.R. 2214, and I'm hoping we can get that across the finish line. And then the second question is involving the pill penalty that is woven into that Inflation Reduction Act with the price control settings, which when those things happen lead to less innovation for new drugs that could be a potential cure for my son Justin. And there's a bill, the EPIC Act by Greg Murphy and Brett Guthrie. Those are the two things that I'm hoping that we can accomplish here soon.
You know what, Alyssa, thank you. And yes, I do remember. Please say hello to Justin. And I'm glad. I try to meet with as many Minnesotans as I can because that's the business that we're in. We work for you. The PBM reform, that has strong bipartisan support. I'll just talk from my position as the whip. That was going to the floor in December, and unfortunately the bill that was in was part of the end of the year thing that ended up not going forward, but it would have passed the floor had it been voted on back in December. Representative Miller Meeks has reintroduced it. The work's already been done. The support is still there. I expect that you're going to see PBM reform, perhaps not the exact thing that Marionette is proposing, because I'm sure along the way people can try to amend it and change it, but it is time. And I think regardless of where you stand on PBM reform in Washington, D.C., the people are demanding it, and the market is demanding it. So I think you're going to see that before the end of the year. And the bill that I think you said Brett Guthrie has on and Greg Murphy on the pill penalty. Listen, the Doc Caucus, which is a bunch of doctors who are members of Congress, which includes Greg Murphy, is one of the most aggressive caucuses here in Washington, D.C. These guys get things done. The pill penalty, I'm not sure that it fits into reconciliation, but I have no doubt if it does, that's what they're pushing for, and you could see that as early as the end of May. Otherwise, look for them to move that as a separate bill. Remember, reconciliation only requires 51 votes in the Senate. If we move it as a separate bill, you'll have to have 7 Democrats in the Senate, but I got to believe most of those Democrats will agree with you, Alyssa, that the pill penalty is actually bad for America, and most importantly, it's bad for Americans because it doesn't provide the marketplace where the next best thing can be developed and that will save lives and frankly improve quality of life. So again, thank you for taking the time to come to Washington, D.C. Everybody on this call, it's a big sacrifice to come to Washington from Minnesota. It's time, it's money, but it matters. And when you get to see our Minnesota constituents face-to-face in Washington, D.C., I think it makes a difference, certainly for us. We're going to represent you regardless. But all the other people that you meet with here, it puts your face with the issue that's most important to you, which makes a big difference with members that may not know our state. So thanks for doing that, Alyssa, and everybody else on this call. You're always invited.
Thanks so much. Next, we will go to Mayor Tim Sanders from Blaine. Mayor Sanders, you're on the line.
Good evening, Congressman Emmer. How are you?
I'm doing well, Tim.
Excellent, sir. Well, I wanted to talk a little local here and start off by thanking you for working so hard at the federal level to help bring our tax dollars back home into our local community, and specifically back into the city of Blaine. You know, last year we were very successful at the state and federal level in acquiring all the dollars needed to, fund all of the upgrades and safety improvements for Trunk Highway 65. And really my questions kind of stem out of that, which is I know there's still a lot of really important projects in our region here, inside of Blaine, inside of Anoka County, the next phase of Trunk Highway 65 just to the north. Just wondering if you could talk a little bit about what the Trump administration and you and your leadership in the House, how are we prioritizing transportation funding, specifically roads and bridges, and will regional centers kind of like ours continue to see success, this Congress and moving forward and bringing some of these critical infrastructure road projects to present?
Tim or Mayor Sanders, I think you already know how I'll talk from my perspective and then from Congress and the administration. I've said this for years. Article 1 in the Constitution says that I, as the elected representative, have the constitutional responsibility to determine how money gets spent. Several years ago, there were some Republicans who started talking about earmarks because they were so abused. The bridge to nowhere is one that people remember, and they were abused. They went away for a long time. They've come back. They're called community projects now. What I do is focus on highways and bridges, water and sewer primarily. That's the limitation that I've put on it over these last few years. Why? Because there's always going to be limited funds. And my job is to come to Washington and build influence for you so that I can make sure that our priorities are actually getting funded. And you're right, we've had some great success. In 2024, we secured $4 million for Minnesota Trunk Highway 65 in your city. If you look around the district, we did $7 million for the Highway 5 Mobility Project, $3.85 million for U.S. Highway 10, $7 million for U.S. Highway 169, $3 million for Interstate 94, $1 million plus for County State 8 Highway 19 and County Road 117 intersection improvements, $5 million for Benton County Highway 29, $2.238 million. It's actually 2.39 for the St. Michael Wastewater Treatment Plant, $1.5 million plus for the Otsego Well House number 3, $2.2 million plus for the New Germany Wastewater Plant, $2.15 million for the City of Sartell's 15th Street North Regional Corridor, and $1.2 million for the J-turn at Belle Claire Drive. It's pretty amazing what we've been able to accomplish for all of you, because these are projects that, these have statewide significance if you look at some of these roadways. So what's happening here in Washington, D.C.? First, Tim, Sean Duffy, as the new Transportation Secretary, is a breath of fresh air. I'm glad that we've, in the words of a certain governor, failed vice presidential candidate, I'm glad we've turned the page on the last failed administration. This one has a whole new air to it. Sean's leaning in and being aggressive. The challenge that we know we're going to have is that we got a country 36 to 37 trillion dollars in debt. We're bleeding 1.7 to 2 trillion dollars on an annual basis in our budget, and that can't continue. I think what you've seen from the Trump administration the first 73 days is trying to identify all the waste, fraud, and abuse, trying to find efficiencies in government, trying to lower the cost and improve the delivery of services from our government. I expect that as we get to the summer, because we're just now, we're formulating the criteria for projects for this coming budget, 2026, it's going to be no different. In fact, I expect it to be better, maybe not in terms of the amount of money, but the fact that we're going to continue to bring resources home for these really important projects that you are trying to deliver to your residents, your citizens, that are going to save lives, going to create, take care of some major safety concerns, which I know you've been working on since before you became the mayor. So don't expect that to change. Expect it to improve. Kind of like right now with the tariffs that were released today. I think if you look at the list, Western Europe is one that's interesting. They have a tariff of 35%. Trump is going to charge them 20%. Yeah, it's thrown the markets into a bit of a tizzy over the last few weeks, but you know what? I think it's going to straighten out rather quick. I think these people are going to be outed for how they've mistreated Americans and American businesses, and I think that's going to be corrected. That's going to start to move. The efficiencies that the Trump administration is going to install, we got computer systems around here, Tim, that date back to the 1970s. You would think that we could move into the 21st century and find all kinds of ways to improve efficiency and deliver more services at a better cost. So I expect as that happens, we're going to have success again in helping you meet the priorities that you have set in Blaine. So thanks for the question.
Thanks so much, and remember, if you do have a question, please press *3 on your keypad. And if you would like to sign up for Congressman Emmer's e-newsletter delivered to your email, please press 1. With that, we'll turn it over to Marshall from Foley. Marshall, you are on the line.
Thank you. I need to apologize. I'm in the middle of some dental work, so I'm not speaking that clearly. However, I have a farm in Benton County, and Foley and other parts of the area are supplied with electrical power by Xcel Energy, but my farm and other areas to the north and east are not. They're supplied by East Central Energy. I would, around Foley, there are a bunch of wind farms that Xcel Energy is buying power from. I would like to do the similar thing with my farm in my area, but East Central Energy is reluctant to buy the power, apparently. I've contacted them and I left messages, but I do not get any response. Is there anything that you can suggest or tell me that might help me in my quest?
So, Marshall, first off, you actually sound really good. So I don't know. I don't know how you feel. I'm sure that dental work's not fun, but you sound great. As for the issue, I'm struggling a little bit with the East Central. It's a business type arrangement that you're talking about. You want to sell them power, and I think the issue is not just that I don't know ethically that I can help put you together with East Central. And besides, this is a local issue and state issue. When it comes to these wind farms, you're going to deal, as you probably know, I suspect you've already looked into it. You're going to deal with zoning issues. You're going to deal with other issues within Stearns County, Benton County, I guess is what you said the farm was in, Foley, et cetera. And then it really is a state issue when it comes to wind farms and the regulation. You're certainly welcome to call our Otsego office at 763-241-6848. But I just want to manage expectations because this really is a state issue, and I'm a little concerned. My job as congressman is to help you access government services and all the rest. But I think you run into ethical concerns when we start to get involved in helping people set up business relationships. So just want to manage those expectations. Thank you, Marshall.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to Todd from Watertown. Todd, you are on the line.
Hello, Congressman Emmer.
Hey, how you doing, Todd?
Hey, so my question is, the entire country is watching the Trump administration, and it seems he's got everybody in the entire administration working 18, 20 hours a day to try to make the country a better place. What we're seeing from Congress seems to be a different thing. When we're looking at Congress, we don't see them trying to help Trump get any of his agenda accomplished. Is there anything you can tell us that would give us comfort? Are there any examples you can give us of what Congress is doing to help Trump get done what he's trying to get done?
Yeah, I think, Todd, it's a great question. Keep in mind the media, and I hope if you're on the line, you listen to me. The media in this country is corrupt. The media does not report from a nonpartisan perspective. In fact, I would argue that much of the national news media, the 24/7 soundbite or entertainment-driven soundbite news media, is a communications arm of the radical left in this country. That being said, I respect the fact that you're not seeing action, and I'm going to tell you that there's been a lot of action. Keep in mind, this is the 73rd day of the Trump administration. What have we done so far? The Senate has passed a budget resolution to unlock the door to reconciliation. The House, with one vote to spare, passed the budget resolution in the House that these contain Trump's priorities, and they're basic formalities, procedural formalities to unlock the door to build a reconciliation bill. Reconciliation is going to be it's got to be primarily revenue and expense based rather than policy based. So this is we've got 11 committees in the House that will be drafting portions of this, and that is President Trump's agenda. The other thing that we did, which I know that people had concerns, but this is what the president wanted, and he's right. We passed a continuing resolution through September 30th. Why is that important? That's the end of the fiscal year. We took care of the 25 budget with that with passage of that CR. And why should we not hate that CR? Because you froze spending. It's the first time that we were never going to get a deal that good. More importantly, we took all the leverage away. Now this thing is funded through September 30th, and we can get on with not only the DOJ waste, fraud, and abuse findings, but all of the other efficiencies that I talked about in response to an earlier question, which again is the Trump agenda. And you're going to see more of it. There's talk on the elections front about the federal elections. We, Congress, have the authority to establish same-day voting. We have the authority to establish through the SAVE Act, which was voted on last fall and will be voted on again here. We have the right to require proof of citizenship to register to vote. We have the right to pass a law that says that at the federal level that voting machines must be made in America, and the list goes on and on. The border, we've already given you the roadmap in the House. We passed the strongest border security bill in 20 years last Congress. Much of that is going to be done through the reconciliation process, and the rest we'll have to do through the regular process where you got to get 7 senators on the other side. But I don't think you want to be voting against Donald Trump and the American people when it comes to securing our borders and making our communities safe and secure. We are more than supporting President Trump. And we got to remember, you got 77 million people who voted for Donald Trump on November 5th. He won the election. Collectively, House members got 74.8 million votes. What does that mean, Todd? That means there's a little over 2 million voters that don't consider themselves Democrats or Republicans. They're Trump voters. And if we want to engage those Trump voters on our side of the aisle, if we want them to continue to come out and vote, it is imperative that we enact the Trump agenda. What he's done in 72 days is nothing short of incredible. What we're going to do in the next few months is in large part to codify those things that we can, those executive orders that he's been doing. We need to put those in law. So I'm sorry that you're not seeing it through the wonderful prism of our left-leaning media, but believe me, we are working hard in Washington to enact Donald Trump's agenda, and there's no question we support it. Everybody here supports it.
Great, thank you so much. Again, if you have a question for the Congressman, please press *3. We also have a poll question for everyone to participate in. So where do you get your news? What is your primary news source? Press 1 for cable TV, press 2 for local TV, press 3 for newspapers, 4 for social media. So where do you get your news? Cable TV 1, local TV 2, newspapers 3, and social media 4. You can just press that number on your keypad. With that, we'll go to another question. We have Tony from Anoka County on the line.
I mean, you don't watch local news. You don't watch CNN.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I was just responding to your query. So, Congressman Emmers, I have a question in regards to Statute 245A. We've recently seen the prosecution of the Feeding My Children fraud, $240 million in fraud perpetrated against the citizens of Minnesota in Medicaid voucher program fraud in our state. Many hardworking, industrious, generational Minnesotans are exposed to this fraud on a daily basis. It's estimated to be $612 million currently within Minnesota. Governor Walz has approved just one auditor investigator in the current budget to investigate this fraud. We have a well-meaning staff of 4 within the U.S. House who are investigating fraud, but unfortunately they don't have the support to investigate, prosecute, and remediate fraud in Minnesota. You wrote a letter, drafted a letter in January of 2025 to Attorney General Bundy requesting assistance in this out-of-control fraud that we're experiencing here in Minnesota. What is the response and what are the actions that are going to be taken by Attorney General Bundy and also your office to remediate this massive fraud that's occurring within our state?
Tony, I love the question. I love it because you actually know more than most Minnesotans, because our worthless paper in the Twin Cities refuses to report on the rampant fraud that's occurred under Tim Walz's administration. I think there's as many as 60 open fraud investigations. And by the way, you and I are paying for that. We're paying for it every day. It's the Feeding Our Future fraud case that you referenced, and investigations into fraud in child care and autism centers. Feeding Our Future, a Minnesota Department of Education program, was the largest COVID-19 fraud scheme in the nation. It was defrauded for $250 million in funds that were allocated for women and children. You would think the governor himself would be up in arms and trying to figure out who in the Department of Education was either complicit or was asleep at the wheel allowing this stuff to happen at that level. State and federal enforcement officers have clawed back roughly $75 million of the $250, but most of these funds have been spent or lost and will never be recovered. You're correct. I have sent letters. I've actually sent 4 letters with our Minnesota delegation to attempt to hunt down answers. 2 letters to the USDA because their first answer was lacking any substance whatsoever. That was under the Biden administration. 2 letters to the Minnesota Department of Education because they failed to provide a full accounting relating to the scandal. And that's under, obviously, the Walz administration, which has been completely inept and I would argue has been obfuscating and trying to put up roadblocks to any investigation. The Minnesota Department of Human Services is looking into 62 active investigations into child care centers across the state. These child care centers receive federal funding through the Child Care Assistance Program. One child care center received $7.8 million in federal funding since 2019 and had over 95 violations from 2019 to 2023. Tony, there's got to be corruption here because there's no reason that this should continue with those kind of numbers. I, along with the rest of our Minnesota Republican delegation, sent a letter to Governor Walz expressing concern about this fraud in child care centers. You think he's responded? No, and nobody in the local Twin Cities media is willing to hold him accountable. The FBI and the Minnesota Department of Health and Human Services are investigating fraud in autism centers, which have been receiving Medicaid reimbursements. Democrats are wondering why we're going after fraud in the new administration. Because it makes sense. Look at what we're dealing with. What I would say to you, Tony, is this is just the beginning. There's a new sheriff in town. Pam Bondi is our Attorney General, and she's already starting to put Minnesota on notice that these types of activities will be investigated, and we will identify where the problems are. And if people are involved and complicit, they will be found out, and they will be charged and prosecuted. This is a new world, and again, this corrupt media, be a theme I'm going to give you all night. They want to say this is the retribution plan. No, it's not. This is holding people accountable who have turned our federal and state government into their own personal ATM. They have been stealing tax dollars through this waste, fraud, and abuse, and it's time that we identify not only the waste, fraud, and abuse, but the people that are responsible for creating it and making it happen. So I'm very confident that Pam Bondi and our U.S. Justice Department are going to get back to the business of working for the American people instead of the administration against their political enemies like the Biden administration did to Donald Trump.
Thank you for that question. Poll results is pretty evenly split, with 25% of respondents saying cable TV, 21% local TV, 24% newspapers, and 30% social media. So pretty split and pretty evenly spread out. With that, again, if you want to ask a question for Congressman Emmer, please press *3, and we will head over to Bill from Elk River. Bill, you are on the line.
Yes. Hi. This is Bill and Bill Poppert, and I worked with you, Congressman Emmer, back in 2019. In St. Cloud, we put on an international development seminar talking about. You recall that one, and I do. I was just very impressed with your professionalism and the good message that was delivered. And
thank you.
My business is the energy business, and I've been in that for a number of years, probably about 30 years. Ran the Elk River Energy City program, administered energy for the Carlson Company buildings, Radisson Hotels, TGI Fridays, and so on. Have written a book on the topic. I've worked in 8 countries in Africa, and I am so delighted to see a new pragmatic and conservative presence in Washington. And the new Secretary of Energy, Christopher Wright, really has the right idea. He is promoting American technology, American energy, best priced energy, but he has a very strong lean toward eliminating energy poverty in a business-like way, which is very much in sync with our book and teachings that we've had, but we have had less luck with the current administrations and some of the waste through foreign aid. So I met about a month ago with Robert Benson and had a very fine meeting with him in Otsego, left a book behind and other leave-behind materials. And I am looking for any assistance you can provide me, any references to Mr. Wright, to his staff, or perhaps to the people that are rebuilding our foreign aid structure in a new, streamlined, more pragmatic way.
I appreciate that. I don't know that Chris would be happy with me giving out his phone number on a telephone town hall, but we can certainly figure out how to do that, and I will follow up. I'll have Sally follow up with Bobby Benson herself. But the foreign aid thing, it's interesting. It's going to be rolled into the State Department, as you've heard. And, you know, I got Minnesotans are very concerned because there are some programs in USAID that were good, but and I actually agreed with them. But the problem is the people who ran USAID, they turned it into their own personal ATM, their own slush fund, and they were using it for things that were not part of the mission. So they're the ones who have caused the problem. The Trump administration is going to try to clean it up. I think they've already started out well. What we're waiting for and what we need, what we've been asking for, is an appeals process. For the stuff that's good, tell us where we file an appeal with the administration about how we get that program back up and running, and who's going to run it. Where is it going to be? What under the umbrella of the State Department, where are you going to put it? And so far, Bill, I do not have that answer. Again, we're only 73 days in. And as Tony said, yeah, the Trump administration is working 18 to 20-hour days, doing just amazing things. This president, by the way, is a freak of nature. At 78 years old, I think it is, 77, 78, he probably sleeps 3 hours a day or a night at most. Constantly working all the time. I can call him and he picks up the phone. He's always on. So I just know their heart's in the right place. They're doing the right things. They're trying to make sure that these funds are going to the purposes that they're supposed to go to, and that you, the taxpayer, are actually getting a return on the dollar that you're paying. But we'll follow up with you. You don't have to worry about following up with us. And I appreciate hearing from you. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we will go to Jack from Monticello. Jack.
Yes, Congressman. My name is Jack Nelson from Monticello, and my question is, back before the first of the year, the House and the Senate passed the Social Security Fairness Act, and they sent it on to President Biden to sign it. Well, that act took about 3 months once it got going to get finished and signed at the president's desk. What I'm asking is, why is the Major Richard Starr Act, which benefits the veterans of this state and across this country, been waiting over 5 years to get an answer to this problem and get this law passed so that the veterans can receive the benefits that they should have? You know, the Social Security Act costed $196 billion over a 10-year program, and this Major Richard Starr Act would cost $10 billion, and you guys are fighting it. You won't pass it because you say you can't find the money. Can you explain this to me, please?
I believe, Jack, I've co-sponsored the bill that you're talking about. I've been an author of it in the 115th Congress, the 117th Congress, and the 116th Congress, and the 117th. I've got a ton of history, past history, supporting the legislation you're talking about. I have not, if you are wondering, I have not co-sponsored it in the last 2 Congresses because I'm the majority whip. We typically don't co-sponsor bills that we're going to be whipping our members to support, because when you do that, then I'm going to be right away with somebody who might need to be convinced. They're going to say, well, you're already biased. So I try to stay off it as the whip. But you can look at my history. And by the way, you can know that I work closely with Chairman Mike Bost on veteran priorities. By the way, when I last co-sponsored the bill that you're talking about in 2022, I actually said, quote, our work to ensure our veterans get the benefits and recognition they have earned is never complete, and we're going to continue to demonstrate our commitment. The bill that you're talking about will expand retiree compensation for veterans who are forced to cut their military careers short due to combat-related injuries, allowing them to collect the monthly benefits that they were previously denied. It's supported not just by you, Jack, but by most major veteran groups and CVSOs, and we agree with Chairman Bost that this legislation is very important. It has not been scheduled for a vote at this time. The reason that we have not voted for it is simple. A large amount of outreach has received comments expressing concerns about layoffs at the VA. To put this issue into perspective, the St. Cloud VA has between 1,800 and 2,000 staff members. As of this month, the VA has terminated only 7 probationary employees from the St. Cloud VA system since January 26. Bad actors are actually using their platform to fearmonger. We can do a bunch of different stuff for veterans, and that's what we're going to continue to do, Jack. But the bill that you brought up, because I can go on and on about our work with and for veterans in Minnesota and beyond. It's the most important work I think we do. Yeah, it's saving your tax dollars and everything else, but those of you that have put on the uniform and been willing to make the sacrifice, you and your family, to serve this great nation and protect our freedoms, we need to do everything we can to make sure we take care of you once you return, and thank you for your service. But the legislation that you're bringing up, feel free to call our Otsego office to get more details. That's 763-241-6848. But I've been a supporter, and I am a supporter. So thanks for your question.
Thank you. Reminder, if you have a question, please press *3. We have time for just a few more. Let's go to Lonnie from Blaine. Lonnie, you are on the line.
Hello, Mr. Emmer. I have a couple questions. One is, I have been a homeowner in Blaine for 7 years, and my taxes went from $1,800 to $3,950 this year. In 7 years. So that's a concern to me. Another concern is that my daughter is a teacher in the area, and I volunteer a lot, and she's like, no, Mom, you can't talk about this, and you can't talk about that, and you can't talk about that. It's kind of like, well, what am I supposed to talk about? You know, like you can't raise certain issues, and everything is so political on the left. And I am a staunch, Republican, and she has definitely said, Mom, maybe we need to watch some stuff together so we can kind of meet in the middle somewhere, but when Amy Klobuchar goes on television and lies outright about what the policies are, there should be something done about that.
So you're talking about policies in our schools?
I'm talking about policies that the president has said the president is trying to do, and she out and out lies about that. We're, trying to cut Social Security, and, it's not true. She's lying, and the media feeds her, and I think that if someone is out and out lying about a policy, they should just be, that's it. You're done. You cannot lie.
Well, I mean, you should tell our governor that. Apparently our governor on national TV, when he was confronted about his lies concerning Tiananmen Square, his explanation was, you know what, I grew up in a small town and sometimes I'm a bit of a knucklehead. You're right. They're lying about everything, and now they're fear-mongering on Medicaid cuts, etc. What Donald Trump has done for our schools, it's all common sense. His executive order, and if this is what your daughter's talking about that we can't talk about, we need to talk about the fact that biological girls should be allowed to compete with biological girls, not biological boys. It defies common sense, and this idiocy about we're being insensitive. No, everybody can live their lives the way they want. That's their business. This is a matter of safety. This is a matter of common sense. A biological male is going to be typically bigger and stronger and is going to cause harm to a biological female, depending on what the competition is. So I'm not sure. And by the way, our governor, who thought that putting tampons in boys' bathrooms was a good idea, I'm sorry, folks. This stuff's insane. And it defies our common sense to even say that, oh, I need to be sensitive about that. No, start calling it out. Tell them it's wrong. Stand up for this stuff. Otherwise, this crap is going to continue to take us down a dark hole. The good news for us, Lonnie, is these people are not in touch with Main Street in Minnesota or anywhere around the country. When you have the failed vice presidential candidate traveling around the country, doubling down on his crazy talk from the election last November, the election that they lost resoundingly, they didn't listen. They are a very small group in this country right now. My grandfather's Democrat Party does not exist any longer. It's become the radical Marxist, socialist, communist, whatever you want to call it, party of extremes. Are there good people that are still Democrats? Yeah, there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of them, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do because their party is not listening to them either. For you and me, we just have to show we can govern. We got to do our job and show we can govern. Your tax issue, I've got the same one. My property taxes have skyrocketed. It's a county issue. This is something that we got to address in Minnesota, where the tax climate, you know, if you're a billionaire, if you're a millionaire, it's not a big deal. If you're like the rest of us and you're just trying to pay your bills and you know, make sure that you have a home that you can call your own, it's getting tougher and tougher. That's why at the beginning of this call, when I was doing the introduction, I talked about how prices have been coming down, the cost of gas, the cost of eggs, but we got a long way to go. I mean, the last 4 years really hurt. And now we've got to undo a lot of that, and we got to get this economy humming again. It's going to take a little bit of time. So God bless you for sticking up for what you believe in. God bless you for loving your daughter. We don't have to agree, but we have to have these conversations. We can't let people think we quietly agree with them. We don't. And you don't hate people by telling them the truth. We don't hate anyone, and we respect anyone's right to do whatever they want to do, but let's put common sense into this thing. Let's stop with the insanity. Thanks, Lonnie.
Thank you. We have time for just one or two more questions. Let's go to Denny from St. Cloud. Denny, you are on the line.
Congressman Emmer. Good
hey,
day.
Denny.
How are you?
Doing great. Good to hear your voice.
You too. Say, the local Republicans, knowing my association and relationship with you, right now there's a lot of nervousness about the tariffs, what it's going to do, and I think we have to continue to work on educating people that our national debt is 106% of our GDP, and we have to go backwards to go forward. And there's a lot of nervousness with these tariffs tonight. Hakeem Jeffries has got on Republicans recession, and that's what he was on blabbing about tonight. When you talked about the fraud in Minnesota, I had a group meeting with Speaker Demuth the other day, and she said we're at $644 million of fraud in Minnesota. And she said she really got to see the color of Governor Walz's eyes because he was very close to her, with her bringing in the Attorney General to investigate this. So we're working on that. But I think what we have to do, the third thing that I get asked a lot, are we going to get the tax on tips and the Social Security tax gone with the new bill that's coming through? So those are some of the things that have been on the forefront right now that are hot topics in the community, and you can respond and let me know what your feelings are.
Well, Denny, I appreciate it. But let's just start out by acknowledging that President Trump is actually putting American companies and American workers first. It's been the first time this has happened in 30 years. He's not putting everybody else first. He's putting the people that actually make things in this country and try to make ends meet. He's putting them first. These tariffs are going to protect American manufacturing, blue-collar jobs, and safeguard our economy from our foreign adversaries like China. We're no longer going to be exploited by other countries. Americans have been getting ripped off for more than 50 years now. Foreign nations now are going to pay for the privilege of accessing our markets. Today, President Trump announced reciprocal tariffs on nearly 60 countries, along with a baseline tariff of 10% on all U.S. trading partners. The reciprocal tariffs are being imposed at roughly half the rate the U.S. is charged by other countries, and they take effect on April 9th. The 10% tariff on all U.S. trading partners will take effect on April 5th. But just to give you an idea of what we're dealing with, China charges us, our producers, 67% tariff to take product into China. Trump is going to charge them 34%. That's his reciprocal tariff. The European Union, they charge us, our producers, 39%. Trump's going to charge them 20%. Vietnam charges our producers 90%. Trump's going to charge them 46%. The list goes on. India charges 52%. Trump's going to charge them 26%. South Korea is 50%. He's going to charge them 25%. Thailand is 72% tariff. Trump's going to charge them 36%. Look, this is not the wild and crazy thing that our biased, corrupt news media is putting out there, trying to scare the markets and the uncertainty and everything else. The markets will come around. The markets will stabilize now. I believe this will go quickly. Now that people know what this is, and they know April 5th is the date and April 9th is the date, I think you're going to see some of these countries, when they realize Trump is not doing a reciprocal tariff, which is you charge me 100%, I charge you 100%. He's actually still giving them a deal, but he's trying to improve the environment for the American companies and American workers. That is his priority, and I think he's going to achieve it. This is, by the way, all these guys who say you can't do this, we've been doing the same stuff for 30 years. Nothing else has worked. How about we give this guy some grace while he tries to actually do what he's been campaigning on for years in his mission to protect American companies and American workers. This is going to be successful, Denny. I tell people, tighten the buckle, because it's going to be a bit of a ride. There's still going to be some choppy waters. But when we come out of it on the other side, it's going to be much better than it was beforehand, and certainly much better than it was the last 4 years.
Thank you for that question. And with that, that is the end of our telephone town hall. Thank you, everyone, for participating. If you'd like to leave a voicemail at the end of this call, please do in our office, or Congressman Emmer will get back to you. If you are ever in need of assistance, please go to our website, emmer.house.gov. We have 2 offices in Minnesota, one in Otsego and one in Chaska, and then our Washington, D.C. office. Thank you again for your time, and have a great night.